Hey guys, Evans here, coming at you from Seeing You Fits. I know it's been a while since we chatted. It seems like every time I go live, I say it's a while since we've chatted. But a lot of great things are happening here. That's for another conversation. But today, I just want to spend a little bit of time and talk about metabolism. And it's this common term used, and people's like, "Oh, my metabolism this," or "My metabolism this." Or a lot of times people I see get very frustrated in their journey because they don't really understand how metabolism uh, um, works, meaning they may start their journey one direction, and then they see like their weight doesn't move the way they want it to do, or other things may not happen the way we want it to happen, and they don't realize that their body is more than just a weight on the scale or just a number. I got a special guest here with me from Germany, Alyssa, who is one of our nutrition coaches, to kind of maybe ask some questions along the way. But hey, Alyssa, how you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful, wonderful. So, just chatting really quick about it. So, just kind of get into the meat of it. I just want to hit like, what is your weight first, and then to kind of talk about your metabolism and through with the frustration. I think sometimes people get frustrated because they don't really understand what is included in their weight. So, your
Mhm.
weight is more than just fat. Sometimes people are like, oh, I hate the scale. And I empathize. I get it. I have to weigh myself every day as a client, and at times I get frustrated because I'm like, I did really good today, my weight's up, or I worked out really hard, my weight's up. But there's a lot of different things that impact your weight. Your weight is all the connective tissues in your body. Your weight is blood and water and bones and muscle tissue and fat.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things that affect your weight. And so the daily weight is not of necessarily a fat fluctuation. To actually gain a pound of fat is a little bit more challenging than people make it out to be. A pound of fat actually equals about 3,500 calories in excess. So your body has a certain amount of calories you're going to burn anyway. And then, we call that your basal metabolic rate, just the amount of calories you burn every single day. And then from that, you have in it just NEAT. It's called non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So I talk with my hands, I move around for my job, all those things burn calories, because calories is a measurement of energy, right? It's just saying like I have X amount of calories, so I can move X amount. And then so you have your basal metabolic rate, and we'll talk about how you get that number later. Your NEAT, this non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You also have something called a thermic effect of food, right? Your body has to produce a certain amount of heat or energy just to break down the food that you're eating. It's kind of like you burn, you have to use gas to burn gas, almost kind of thing. So your body has to produce some amount of heat just to burn down, and fat and carbs use less calories to break it down than proteins do. They're more dense tissues. Even if you just look at it from a cursory view, right? And you look at your plate and you look at some sweet potato, you look at the turkey, and then you look at butter, breaking them down is going to take a little bit more work to break down the turkey than it is going to take to break down the butter or the sweet potato. So that's just, your body produces a certain amount of calories, and then you have exercise. And the amount of exercise you do burns a certain amount of calories. Now, I got like an Apple Watch, and over the years, I've had all kinds of different trackers, and all the research says that stuff's not accurate. But what it does do, it allows me to at least be motivated to do something and to push at a certain rate. But they can be anywhere from 20 to some even 50% off in their accuracy. So someone's like, I'm burning 500 calories according to that. Well, the only way to really know how many calories you're burning is that they put a mask on you, and they actually measure the amount of CO2 that you produce from the activity that you're actually doing. And everybody is different, in there. So there's not a linear scale. This just assumes that if your heart rate's at a certain amount over a certain amount of time, then you burn a certain amount of calories. period. It's like really, really simple math in there, but it's not individualized to you, because you can strap this on my daughter without changing any of the math equations in here, and they'll say that she'd burn the same amount of calories I would doing the same thing. And the reality is that a teenager is going to trump me most times in the amount of calories that they burn. So that's just the first piece, right? The next component in there is understanding this whole, like, metabolism portion. And
Mhm.
I think that's where people get frustrated, because my weight's a lot of different things, and things impact my weight, right? If I slept bad, my weight's up, right? Because my stress levels didn't decrease the way I needed them to do. If I hit my toe, my weight may go up because inflammation, my body may store water. If I do drink a lot of water, my weight's up for a little bit, but then my weight's down for a little bit more because I drank a lot of water. I flushed the water out of my system. So it's a constant fluctuation. What we need to understand is our metabolism. That
I think for women too, we have our hormonal cycles that can cause a huge fluctuation in weight depending on the time of the month, and not just necessarily around the time that your cycle begins. And during that time, your weight is going to fluctuate every week of the month depending on where you are hormonally. So that's another impact that can like really impact the scale as well.
absolutely, and I love it when we're like, I don't get a cycle anymore, but it doesn't mean you don't have hormones anymore.
Right.
You just don't bleed, right? But you still have hormones. So,
Mhm.
your body is going to go through fluctuations all month long. But we're looking for more than an event or a specific day. We're looking for a trend. Is your body trending downwards, or is it trending upwards? And if so, providing that the data is the same, day over day, if it's trending in one direction, then we know, okay, we need to make a change,
Mhm.
provided that the trend is not positive. And that can be a misunderstanding, right? My weight went up, but my waist is lower. Oh, I'm upset. No,
Mhm.
no, no. Here's a deal. If you had no clue what your weight was, but your waist was smaller, would you be upset?
Right. No.
You wouldn't. You'd be happy. You'd be like, my waist is smaller. So it's okay. It's just that you might have restored some glycogen, which is the sugars that are stored in your muscles, right? You may be holding on to some water weight, so your weight went up. You didn't gain fat, because remember, we was going up to this total daily energy expenditure, and then from that number, you still have a surplus that you have to burn in order to drop all the way down
Mhm.
to gain 3,500 calories. Anywho, metabolism has to deal with how many calories, or this idea of like how much your body burns, and grows. It's actually two terms. We call it anabolism and catabolism, the breaking down and the building up of tissues, right? So that's what metabolism is. The way I like to explain to people is, think about it as how many calories you're burning every day. Now, some people's like, I have a slow metabolism, and some people have fast metabolism. And if you feel like your metabolism is slow, the good news is that you can speed it up. It's
Mhm.
just that what it takes to speed it up is almost counterintuitive, for a lot of people. And the reason why people feel like they have a sluggish metabolism, if you felt like, hey, no matter what I eat, I just gain weight, you probably have dieted multiple times. You've probably under-eaten certain times and overeaten at other times. And your
Mhm.
body is very adaptable to whatever you're doing, and it's down regulated to maintain efficiency. See, our bodies are naturally lazy because we're designed to survive. Think about in creation, right? There weren't couches. It wasn't like God said, let there be a couch so man can be comfortable, right? You know what I mean? There wasn't a sleep number bed in creation, right? So you had food, you had resources, you had animals you can eat, you had plants and vegetables you can eat. But then after that, like, you're on the move.
Mhm.
So your body had to be able to, like, store and restore as much as it could to manage until the next feeding time. And none of us were back there, so I think it's silly when people talk about all the things that was happening during different timelines. We weren't there to talk about it, but what we can understand is that they didn't have that couch that was really comfortable. So we have to realize that we were moving a little bit more. So let me get into it, because I've been talking long enough, and you guys know I talk a lot anyway. So what are some things that do impact your metabolism, right? One is just straight your age. And people go, "Yep, I knew it." I got older, and that's what it was. Well, there's a new study that just came out, and I say new, it came out in August or July timeframe, and it says that this idea of my metabolism is affected by age has actually been a myth, has been defunct. They took a series of 6,400 people, you know, and anywhere from like babies around age 1 all the way to people up to 90 years old. And what they found was that your metabolism between 1 year old and 20 year olds decreases by like about 1% or less than a percent annually in that time frame, right? And then from there, from 20 till about 60, your body's metabolism is about the same. Yeah. And then from 60 to 90 is roughly, or 60 to 95 years old, excuse me, it's about the same. But the decline from 60 to 95 is not that dramatic. So this idea of, hey, I just got older and that's what happened, that's probably not the reason why your metabolism is lower. The reason why for a lot of people is they're they're through the years, and typically around 20, 25, you stop gaining muscle for a lot of people because they're not deliberately active. Think about it. I graduated college, I got a real job, and now I sit. I may do some weekend sports thing, but it's nothing like I was doing in high school. So I'm not really gaining muscle that much. And if my weight's staying the same, for many people, they're actually losing a pound of muscle and gaining a pound of fat every single year. Well, it doesn't sound like a whole lot. So you realize that 1 pound of muscle burns about 50 calories a day. So from 25 to 35, I've now gained 10 pounds of fat and lost 10 pounds of muscle. My weight's the same, but if I'm a woman, my dress size is a little bit bigger. If I'm a guy, my belt size is a little bit bigger, but I'm around the same weight. So now this weight thing starts messing with your head because you're like, well, I'm X pounds, so what I need to do is lose weight. No, it's not that you necessarily need to lose weight. Now, at some weights, we do need to lose weight, like straight up and down, right? But many times what we need to do is just change our body composition, right? We need to regain muscle, which is a slower process, and then lose fat. But remember, fat loss is not linear. I've said it over and over again, and people are like, "Oh, I was complying with my meal plan for a week or two, and I didn't lose any weight." Well, did you sleep better? Are you feeling stronger? Are you more mentally aware? Did your cognitive abilities increase? Do you have more strength throughout the day? Can you handle stress a little bit better? You may have a lot of these what we call non-scale victories before you see the scale move, because there's some stuff on the inside that's changing as well. Anywho, age is a factor when it comes to metabolism. Genetics is a factor, right? There are certain people that just have faster metabolism, just genetically. You sit right next to somebody and like, man, you got the good side of the family. Like they eat everything. And they just stay lean. And then you have someone else who's been watching and tracking everything else, and they're not as lean. So genetics can play a role, but behavior trumps genetics. So I love it when people, a lot of times people are like, well, it's my genes, and I always tell them buy Levi, fits comfortably, but I'm just having fun with you there. But if it's the genetics piece, what is your behavior like? Because you can overcome your genetics with consistency in your behavior. And what I think people struggle with this whole component of this is the way I am and this is my behavior is this idea that a short-term behavior change is going to produce massive results. It's going to take time. Go ahead, Alyssa. It sounds like you're going to say something.
On that sort of note, can you talk a little bit about the comparison game and how, if genetics play a role, but habits play a role too? I think a lot of times we can see someone who's running maybe a parallel journey to ours. They start attempting to lose weight at the same time that we do, and maybe their results come quicker. And then, you start looking at that and you think, well, what's wrong with me? Why isn't it working for me? What am I doing wrong? So can we talk about like that effect that can have, and reasons to avoid that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one is realize you're on your journey. I mean, we're in this social media clearly I'm on social media right now. But we're in this social media, instant face, and all this other kind of stuff. We're TikToking and all kinds of other stuff. We're snapping chats and everything else. So we're in this very high level of narcissism that we've ever been in the world. We like to look at the number one picture taken today is a selfie. In the 90s, in the 70s and the 80s, if someone was just walking around taking pictures of themselves, they'd be looked at as weird. Now that's all we do. That's like the only picture we take. You look at your phone, he's like, do you have family members? Because all it is me with duck lips, and so you go, what does that have to do with my weight loss? Well, when you bombard with this mentality of how do I look, and then it's filters which change the way I really look, and then how do I compare to others, everything becomes a comparison game. They say he who compares himself against others is not that wise. I'm not saying you're not wise. I'm just saying it's not wise to do. So instead, I realize I'm on my journey, and that person did not start where I started. It's kind of like all mental health, right? We both show up to the psychologist because we got issues. But you didn't have to deal with my mom. You didn't have to live in my neighborhood. You didn't have to go through things I went through. Even though today we show up at the same psychologist at the same time, maybe not the same time because that'd be weird, but around the same time, same time in our journey, but we're not on the same journey. So what someone else's transformation should do is give you hope that transformation can happen. And unless you have a genetic anomaly or something that's going on physically that's wrong, then you can succeed, especially if they're being coached by the same person. So instead of looking at like where are they now in their journey, compared to where I'm in my journey, where am I? Did my mental health change about who I am? Because this whole fitness thing should be about being a better version of you more than XYZ. And I'm all about it. Like I'm all about it. Have your abs, have your glutes are in 2021, have that cute butt, do all that kind of good stuff. But make sure you're doing it because that's a good representation of you, and not because you're hoping that someone else would validate you secretly for it. Because likes and hearts don't create your self-image. So I just think it's really important that you just say, well, whatever they're doing, that's them. And if you look at other points in your life journey, you probably noticed that you lost at a pretty fast pace sometime. Now you don't know what else they're doing. I have clients, and it's kind of unique, as we look at some clients' journeys, and some clients, one client, they're just methodical, they're hyper consistent, they're doing what they need to do. And I love it. Like month 1 is struggle bus, month 2, they're, these are people who are really trying, not the people who kind of like half bake things and expect to get results. That doesn't, I'm not talking to that person right now. I'm talking about the people who really attempt to do well. And, by month 3, momentum kicks in. It's kind of like, and I don't have like scientific research to prove it besides like over 3,000 people now. But month 3, it's like their body says, I believe you. Like this is not a short-term thing. And then momentum kicks in, and it's like, everybody stops them like, what are you doing different? And they're like, nothing. And right now we can point to, I can think of 15 to 20 people right now who are right there who's just been knocking at the door consistently. And all of a sudden it's like Katie bar the door. I mean, but if you look at their body comp sheets, it went up actually the first month. And then after that, it just kind of held. Month 2, month 3 was nothing much of it. And then month 4 was like, I lost 6 pounds. Month 5, they lost 6 pounds. Six months in, they're not like 30 something pounds. When you average it, it looks like they lost 5 pounds a month, but those first 2 months was a make or break thing. So anywho, a little bit off topic. Other things that can impact it, what genetics do though is determine where fat distribution is. You take a set of twins, and when they gain fat, if they're like, like same egg twins, identical twins, then they actually gain fat in the same place. You look at your dad, you look at you, and if you have that part of the genes, you guys have fat in the same place. A big question is, does hormones play a role? And it does, but not sometimes the way we think it does. And we're not talking about, like, when we talk about hormones, the big hormone that affects it is your thyroid hormone. Can impact, your metabolism big time. It's actually responsible for your metabolism, as well as testosterone. or two big ones. Not hormones you should be playing with. If you have a hormone imbalance, I always say see a physician concerning that. But things else could be things like hydration. So you're following meal plan exactly, but you're not hydrating enough. Well, you're not hydrating enough. You're not gonna see the results that you want to see the way you want to see them. So you have to, hydrate enough. I'll tell you a quick story of something else. And what's enough? Enough is actually somewhere in the space of half to three-fourths of your body weight in ounces of water. One of my favorite quotes is that success does not accept the validity of your excuse. See, what happens? That's too much. I'm gonna have to pee all day. Okay, so don't change. Like, you have to make that decision. Like, am I willing to pee all day, or am I more uncomfortable peeing, or am I more uncomfortable where I'm at? There's a quote. It says, "Change only happens when the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change." That's the only time change happens. Any other time, we'll just make excuses. And there's all kinds of cool quotes about excuses, but they're not for going live. But things that do impact your metabolism is stress. Huge impact. So I was literally being coached myself, and I wasn't losing anything. My body wasn't changing, and I went to my coach and I'm like, dude, I'm hitting my macros every single day. I'm doing exactly what I need to do. I'm drinking my water. I'm working out. Like, what's up? And he goes, you see that stress indicator that you do every week? And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, until you find a way to decrease your stress, your body's not going to change. And I'm like, but I'm eating all my food. But I was in a season of my life where it was just hyper stressful. I was super low in staff. I was working crazy hours. The money was looking funny, So I was like, what am I going to do? And he was like, you just have to find a way to manage stress. I was sleeping about 4 hours a night. He was like, until you get your stress under control, your body's not going to change. Now, this is where people go wrong, I think. They say, you know what, Evans, since my body's not going to change unless I manage my stress, well, I'm just going to stop doing everything. Well, then your body is going to change, but it's not going to change in the direction that you want it to change. So how do we do this is we realize, okay, I'm not going to lose the weight I want to lose until I can manage the stress I'm going to have better. But what I can do is lock in the habits that I want. So when my stress does come down, I already have the habits locked in and I can get some cool results. So last few things here so we don't go super duper long. I talked a little about sleep already. We got to get those sleep in. Every book you read, every research talks about those 6 to 8 hours of sleep. You got to get it in. And it's not necessarily the quantity of sleep, but it's the quality of sleep. Meaning if you're waking up rested, then you slept well. And there's all kinds of sleep hacks that you can use to get sleep in. Just like there's all kinds of stress management hacks. But one of them is a cooler temperature room, no technology in your room. Don't even get on technology for about 30 minutes prior to going to sleep. It allows your brain to kind of like start decompressing and relax. Pick up a physical book and read it. Everybody's a little bit different. I love how they put up these one size fits all techniques, and it doesn't really work for everybody. But if you use some of these things, it kind of helps. Like, I don't like it that cold in the room. I'll be up shivering. I want my nice weighted blanket. Thank you, Denise, for that recommendation. But those are things that I would look at and say, hey, how can I find ways to sleep better? Maybe he's listening to like ocean music or rain or other things like that, but finding ways to just decompress in there, And the last thing is your exercise, right? So we know a dehydrated body, just kind of rehash, is not going to get you the results that you want. We know that if you're not sleeping well enough, if you're stressed out, all those things are not going to get you what you want. But then you also got exercise. And you start where you are, but realize sometimes you got to increase it. Meaning the World Health Organization says every adult should be doing at least 2 30-minute bouts of rigorous, strenuous, rigorous exercise. Pretty much strength training at a high clip for 2 bouts at minimum, each week, right? And then the American Heart Association has been recommending that people do, 150 minutes of cardiovascular training every single week. That may be going for a walk, the cardiovascular side. The other side is strength training. And there's so many benefits of strength training, from bone density, so you strengthen your bones. You go, what does this have to do with my metabolism? Well, this can also help me decrease stress. Because the reason why we're talking about metabolism, many of us, is not because we want to teach a class on it. It's because there's a body composition change we want. And exercise can do two things. It burns calories while you're doing it. But if you're strength training, you also can create this it's a nervous system response, that allows your body to gain muscle, providing that your nutrition can support it post workout. So when I work out, I don't necessarily work out to see how many calories I'm going to burn in that bout. I work out to influence change in my body when my body recovers from the workout. Basically, if you think of me and you had hands together and I was pushing this hand this way, well, your body wants to resist it. And the harder I push, the harder it resists. So, if you see a dude and he has a well-developed chest, that means he's pushed his chest a lot, and his chest said, I'm going to grow some muscle tissue to respond to that. Well, the more muscle tissue he has, the faster his metabolism is. So that's kind of the thought process. But there's other kind of this training exercise as well. So anywhere from, like we said, strength training, resistance training, cardiovascular training, flexibility training. So sometimes people lean into different modalities of stretch therapy to decrease stress in order to get them to their goals. Why am I on here sharing all this? To be honest, we see people hyper frustrated all the time because they're like, dude, I feel like I'm doing enough. And the reality is that your body is very adaptable. It's going to make changes all the time, and so, what we have to do is constantly adapt. The goal is to find a way to develop a lifestyle that you can sustain and rock on, and make small tweaks here and there, and you'll be shocked on how your body is going to actually change. But it's baby steps. But don't put 50 cents in an hour in a dollar machine and expect the water to come out. The machine's just going to look at you. And just as silly as that may sound, that's when we give ourselves 50% of the effort and we expect a full dollar's effort to come out. So I would tell you, be consistent, be patient with your progress, be growth oriented instead of goal oriented. It took me a long time to get that, and you'll be shocked to see what kind of results you get from there. So hopefully that helps you with your mindset, understand a little bit of the things that are concerned with metabolism. Every one of those topic points, you can deep dive for a while in, but I've been talking long enough. So Alyssa, anything you want to share coming in here from Germany?
No, I think you covered quite a bit. And, it's just keeping in mind that, all of those things can affect your journey, and not all at the same time, right? We go through different seasons. And so some seasons we're going to be focusing on one thing, and seasons it might be a different thing. But, the process, right? Focus on the growth, and the results will come. They will.
Absolutely. So with that, hopefully we added some value to you. You understood a little bit more, whether you caught a minute, 10 minutes, or all 28, hopefully that, you got a little bit of understanding of how your body works and how that it's not linear. It's not, 1 + 1 is 2. And 1 + 1 is 2. I know there's new math, but that's another conversation. But it is going to take time for your body to adjust and rock and roll from there. So we'll talk to you guys in a bit, and hopefully I'll go live again pretty soon. So I want to say, I haven't been on here for a while. I'm making shorter clips too. Bye-bye.